Australian Short-Term Rental All-Stars webinar. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. Really excited to be speaking with some really interesting property managers, as well as, of course, Yoav from Guesty. A bit about Enso Connect. We are a guest experience platform for vacation rentals. Our mission is to streamline and monetize the guest experience, guest management, and the guest communication. And we do this with an AI-powered messaging platform, as well as a guest app. Really, the three main problems that we're trying to solve in this industry is how to do more with less. That means increasing the revenue per guest, saving time in your day-to-day operations, and then thinking about getting more of those inquiries converted into bookings. A very interesting stat that I've been sharing frequently is around how many guests don't actually convert into bookings and what property managers do about it. Most property managers don't really do anything about it. And there's an interesting stat that says that if you follow up with a guest that has inquired within a certain time frame, you can increase that inquiry to booking conversion by 18%. There's a lot of interesting things that you can do with your existing portfolio. Of course, we want you to scale. We want you to add more properties, but it's good to also think about what you currently have. And I think we've got some pretty powerful property managers today on the stage that can share more about how they've actually scaled, not just grown their business. Yoav, I'll let you share a bit more about Guesty.
Thank you very much. And hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Honored to be with the great leaders of this industry on this panel. Look, in short, Guesty, property management software, as and I see here quite a wide audience. There are quite a few good solutions in our market. We are fortunate to have some really good property management softwares. We are one of them. We just actually in the last 24 hours, we went through a process of rebranding. And one of the messages that come from it is that we are basically a platform that built for the love of hosting, designed to empower every operator, property manager, hosts with confidence and care. So that's in a nutshell what we're trying to do. And we are honored and happy to be partnering with Enso. Thank you very much for having us here. Rebecca, she's one of the oracles, the godmothers of this industry. I speak on behalf of many of us. We learned a lot from her. She's running a beautiful business for several good years. I always tell her that what she forgot, I didn't learn yet.
I'll share a bit on Rebecca, Francois.
100%.
Rebecca's as off the back of Yoav. She's definitely been a leader of the Australian industry for a long time. Definitely what stands out is her passion and care for the industry and her desire to leave something behind that everyone else can lay their platform off. So she's really focusing on a lot of training and professionally developing the industry as well, which is so lucky. Like with the rest of us who are emerging in this industry, we're just so lucky to have someone like that at the front showing us the way and ensuring that we all try and get there. Rebecca's a legend in the Australian short-term rental industry, and she's been there and done it all and come out smiling. That's my
I love it. Lisa, do you want to share as well something about Rebecca?
Yeah, I do. An absolute powerhouse. Like when she gets up on stage and presents with her talks, like she gives back to her audience at least $1 million in takeaways that people can implement into their business. And that's no word of a lie. Everything that she presents when she's giving back is so tangible and so relevant because she's got so much experience in the industry. I've learned so much from her. It's been unbelievable. I consider her a mentor, a friend, and an incredibly good businesswoman.
We're going to move over right here to Lisa.
You've got a few stats there, which is great. So I won't dive into that, but we've been in the industry for 13 years. We're across Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and Tasmania. Considering this is about scaling business, we've done it organically. Started pre-Airbnb. There was no systems, there was no processes. I had my calendar on a bit of paper and drawing lines in and out and rubbing them out between guests booking and staying and extending, and every statement was hand printed out in those early days. Yeah, that's a little bit about my business.
And then of course, Tim.
Thank you, Francois. Honored to be here on this panel. It is always what thing I love most about this industry is the people, and any opportunity to connect like this, and then obviously share things that we've learned, something I really want to be a part of and always will. Being made easy, it was just a school teacher before coming into this industry. I saw the opportunity in my hometown of Orange in country New South Wales. Gave it a crack, started in my garage and just learnt from there. What I didn't know, I made sure I took the effort to learn, and this is coming back to great sort of people in the industry. Everyone on this call, Francois, we first met in Barcelona a couple of years ago on my last trip back. Yeah, there's been great direction from people in here. It really helped me get to my current size, which over 200 properties across 4 markets, and definitely a lot of scaling challenges. And then also through some certain times, such as COVID and that, a lot of challenges associated with that we've managed to get through. Where we are now, we're at 230 properties. We really strive to ensure a really good guest experience, really strive to take opportunities with good technology to allow positive relationships. At the end of the day, a good service that we can be proud of. That's where we sit at the moment.
I love it. And it's been a pleasure working with you all this time, Tim. So excited to have you here on this webinar. I know you've joined a few of these events and we've gotten to meet in so many places around the world. Same with you, Rebecca. I guess I just saw you in the US a couple of weeks ago. An overview of the short-term rental market and some travel trends.
The strength of our domestic market. We see that overall the market is trending very well. Based on the data that we have, we see that ADR grew by 17% year over year in Australia, 12% in New Zealand. We've seen that overall it experienced 6% growth in terms of the listings and 8% in New Zealand. Within this economic climate, we see relatively positive results.
We've touched up on this. Occupancy is pretty steady. ADRs are a bit up and listings are up as well. We're going to start with just a few questions. First one is, what are some of your biggest challenges in 2025? Do we want to start off with Tim?
I think, as the data has just shown, what we've seen probably through the last 18 months is post that second lockdown that we had in Australia or New South Wales, the market obviously taking a moment to resettle. Not surprising that figures are increasing. We're seeing the interest rates lower in Australia, which is really positive because that's increasing confidence in everyone, in all our sort of markets that we see. I think we're still weathering the very back end of that, but I think that a new golden era is to come. Challenges definitely they're ongoing or existing, but we're on the back end of them, which is making sure that we can ensure that guest experience as we are scaling, because I think there'll be a new sort of wave of properties to onboard. So definitely ensure the guest experience. The expectations have risen in the past few years. That's number one. And then we're still fighting this owner churn. The market's a bit tighter and properties are up going for sale more often than they ever have before. So ensuring that our owners are getting the best value out of our service that we can. I feel it's nothing new. We've been tackling it for the last 12 to 18 months. That's still something that we're really focusing on, which will only improve our service moving forward.
How about yourself, Lisa? What do you think are some of the biggest challenges, whether it's for your business or whether it's in general for property managers in your area or even just in the industry within Australia?
I'll rattle a few off, but I don't think all of these things are scare worthy. I think they're definitely aspects within the industry that need to be looked at. You need to risk assess it in some way. There's that looming Trump, all the stuff going on in America doesn't help. There's been a fair bit of talk around that within our owners. The interest rates has been challenging, especially at the start of the year. Now that they've lowered, that's getting a bit easier. But Tim, we're fighting owner churn as well. I think the caliber of homes and the standards are increasing. We are at the kind of top end of the market, so we don't need to worry about that. But as soon as a property doesn't have any soul, it's immediately a red flag for us, and we're having to encourage these owners to put more and more into their homes to get them up to the standard of the properties of the individual homeowners that are listing their own homes and doing a really good job of it. Housing shortages and all the stuff with Astra that's going on continues to be an underlying worrying problem for me in my business. And then keeping up with AI. I'm sure that that's such a hot topic everywhere, and it's a hot topic. Anyone's going out for dinner in any industry. It's what's going to happen? What does the future look like for our children? What does it look like for the rich and the poor? Are jobs actually going to be taken away? All of those are the things that are challenging me and my business at the moment.
Really interesting. It's really cool that you brought up a few of these topics, including AI, which is obviously a hot topic for Guesty, for Enso, for all the tech companies that are out there. I always say 5 to 10 years ago, every company would promote themselves as being a cloud-based company. It was a thing you had to say, we are the cloud-based version of this on-prem system. And now every software is cloud-based, so they don't need to say it anymore. Today, there's a wave of every software saying we're the AI-based XYZ. In a couple of years, every software will have some sort of AI component, so they won't need to say it anymore. I agree with you. It is a changing world order when it comes to technology.
It also plays on your moral strings as well, because humans are a detriment. Is a mouse going to set its own trap? Is that what humans are going to do at the moment? I don't want to see the world without any jobs, but at the same time, like for me and my business, if I don't keep up, we're going to be left behind. So
100%.
it's a real conundrum from that aspect.
I'll have some more questions for that. And then the Trump and the tariffs and all that, it is a very interesting point to it. I haven't seen much effect from a data perspective on Australia, but to give you guys an idea, I'm based in Canada. And as I'm sure you've seen from the news, Canadians aren't too happy with Americans these days with how they've treated Canadians as a secondary country, 51st state, and all these, I would say, somewhat unfunny jokes, which has brought a bit more patriotism to Canada, which is a very multicultural country. And that patriotism leads to people thinking, why should I go spend my money in Florida and the US when I can go to Mexico and other countries and have a better buck for my Canadian dollar, if you will? So we're seeing on the US side from international travel, a 28% decrease from German travelers to the US, a 12% decrease from Canadian travelers to the US. It is affecting US markets specifically. Right now, we haven't seen anything in Australia, Australians going to the US or Americans and other foreigners coming to the US, that kind of impact with the, I would say, political relations with the US yet, but it is something to factor. The next one that I have is, how do you scale without sacrificing guest experience? And this is one that I've chatted quite a bit with Tim about this, because you guys have scaled quite responsibly by always focusing on the guest experience. And that proves with the reviews that you get. Do you want to share a bit more about how you see scale without sacrificing guest experience? It's something that I always see the metrics contradict. The more properties people have, the reviews start to go down slowly and slowly because it just becomes too hectic. Tim, can you share a bit more how you've maintained some of these awesome statuses and these beautiful high reviews, and how you think you should scale without sacrificing it?
It is a challenge. A lot of it starts with the culture of your staff and just probably our core values as well as a company. Really caring about that hospitality experience that we're giving, especially to our guests, but then also our owners as well. If you can get that through to your staff members, and if you have your really solid set of core values, then you can hire off those qualities as well, meaning you're more likely to end up with the right people who have the right heart for the industry, and they can offer that, who will go above and beyond when a guest is uncomfortable or something happens in a property. That definitely does help. The more properties we get, it is more and more challenging. It's a really good goal for our business, and when we achieve it, it feels incredible. Always being focused on it and not losing focus on the guest experience is definitely part of it. And then the whole scaling responsibly, that comes with looking forward and looking back as well. So as you bring on more properties, or planning and forecasting, like what bottlenecks do you expect to achieve once you hit another 30 properties onboarded? Do you have the right staff who can then process that amount of work? Do you need an extra communications person because there's going to be that many more guests in those properties, et cetera, et cetera. Ensuring that you have those systems in place so that your humans can then be human in the hospitality experience when you're hosting your guests, rather than bogged down and overwhelmed and don't overly feel like doing that extra effort at that vital time or crucial point when the guest needs your help in some way. I think a lot of our success has been just to the foundation of the business, which was strong core values and system/training, staff development type approach, meaning that you can then just scale up, and you always have to be reviewing these things constantly. And then that comes back to planning. It all ties together, and it's a constant. I firmly believe that if you're doing it responsibly, like if you really care, if you care about your reputation and your guests and your owners, you're building a really strong foundation so that when something does happen, you've got that solid base of our owners. They're quite loyal to us. They'll come and have chats. We'll have forward conversations and communication with them. And when things are getting a bit tight or a bit tough, they'll give us an opportunity to fix things up or tidy things up or improve their listing or get more guests or work with their properties, rather than just cutting us really short. So a lot of that sort of groundwork lays the foundation for customers or customer loyalty as far as guests, but also clients as well. So I think that's helped us get to this stable point we are at right now.
Do you have any examples specifically, Tim, of how you can deliver that exceptional guest experience? Because I find that when I speak to property managers, it feels like we just need to get the guests through the door. Like we just need to get the guests to check in, understand the instructions, and move on to the next guest. So how do you go that extra mile? What do you do to curate potentially an experience for those guests?
Looking at through the guest eyes, you need to make sure that the homes are, there's a couple of critical points along the journey. Definitely your properties have to be clean. You need that first guest experience or first impressions to be strong. That deters a lot of potential sort of downfall down the line. So that's making sure this, and we're getting back to then at the scale, software and technology is helping us achieve that at scale. So each of our cleaners has an app that they use. They have a checklist that makes them accountable. So our properties are more likely to be of that high standard expected by our guests. That's number one. Then our guests arrive, we have this, or the guest books, first of all. We have that guest journey laid out of when they should receive a text message and what the communication should be, and the brand and voice and how that should sound to make them have a good guest experience. So then they arrive, it's an easy check-in. We use technology for that. And then again, the staff on board so that when something does happen in the brand voice that you need them to be, not overwhelmed because the technology's carried them along the journey. And then, staff there to handle any sort of requests or anything that happens along the way. More likely to have a better experience, more likely to leave a higher review, more likely that your clients will be happy as well.
Thanks for that complete response, Tim. How about yourself, Lisa? How do you see scaling without sacrificing guest experience?
I believe that we're going through an absolute revolution at the moment with AI coming into the realm. What we're strategizing within our business is scaling down on the admin. So 10 years ago or 6 years ago, we were all scaling up with the admin, employing virtual assistants from the Philippines. So at the moment, I believe that in the next sort of 2 to 5 years, we're going to be scaling down on all of our admin staff and then scaling up on the ground staff so that we're not cutting all of those costs as such, but we're putting more effort into the humanized side of things where we have to have people on the ground doing incredibly thorough checks at the very beginning where we're marking up photos, we've got videos, so that the first guest that walks into the property is not a test dummy for the property, having all of those forms and checklists and systems and processes set out for your on the ground staff, so that as soon as that guest walks in, they have got full instructions on how to work that heating and air conditioning system. They know what day the rubbish goes out. That's going to change the way I operate hugely within my business in the future, and I'm already doing it now. Scaling's really tricky in order to get that guest experience right. I think it's really important to keep the owner out of having a say on the guest experience. So the way that we do that is we don't hide the fees because we have everything in our contract, but what the owner gets the accommodation rate, and then we load up a whole lot of rates on top of that, which the owners don't see and they don't have access to it. So that's a separate operational business that we do for our guests. So making sure that there's wine and cookies inside every single property. It doesn't matter whether the guest is staying for $70 or $500 a night. Those types of guests, we do give them more, so more hampers and things like that. But one thing that I continue to talk about when I get the chance is making sure that you tip your cleaners and rewarding them without penalizing them, because they are the backbone of your business. And if you do not treat them like kings and queens, then you're not going to get anything from them. But they're the ones that actually make the guest experience great, because the number one thing that the guest wants is to walk into a clean and tidy and well presented homes, and that's what our cleaners do.
That's an amazing response, and I love that you provide these different items to your guests regardless of small or big reservations. I think that speaks volume to your business. Yoav, do you have anything you want to add?
I think that in my view, one of the commonalities between Lisa, Tim, Rebecca here is that they have such a fine process. Brian Chesky said a few years ago in a podcast that he got, one of the advices that he got from his mentor was to do things that don't scale. We often think about scale, but, and answer your question, but we also need to think about the small things. So it's counterintuitive, okay? We want to scale, but we need to start from the small examples, from the small steps. Often when I speak with Tim, you can't see it on his wall now, but in another wall in his office, there is actually a process behind the wall that they keep refining, that they keep changing every step in the guest journey, no matter the size of the of the booking. That's just an observation from knowing D3. And also I noticed within the audience that there are quite a few that are also practicing it.
It is a journey at the end of the day for the guests from the moment they inquire all the way to when they check out, and you are a core part of that journey. So crafting it with care is key.
We've spent the last 15 years scaling, and at this moment in time, we're concentrating on automating everything that doesn't impact the guest experience. If it's not involving making the guests feel warm and fuzzy, then we want to automate it. And it's about, with scale, I think it's about the absolutely humongous amount of information that we have for properties and how we can actually capture that information and disseminate it when it needs to be disseminated with automation and because there's just so much information in those properties about how to use stuff, what to do with it, et cetera, that we're going to have to rely on AI in order to get that information to people. But then we want to make sure that they know that they're staying with a business that cares about them and isn't feeling like an automation. Otherwise, an owner of a property can do it themselves. We've got to differentiate ourselves whilst we're in the guest experience. But also coming back to what Tim was talking about, looking after our owners. I am an owner advocate because without a property, there's no guest. Right, so we've got to look after them and prove our worth to them. My answer to the first question was going to be to actually keep our costs down whilst implementing all the technology that's available, because it's a bit out of control. And the bright, shiny objects is my biggest challenge, because I'm not sure which bright, shiny object is actually going to have the biggest impact on my owner profitability and the guest experience, and still allow me to run a sustainable business into the future. So throw all the balls up in the air and see what lands at the moment is a bit our philosophy. It's all fun, and we're offering a lovely guest experience, and we've just outsourced our linen and housekeeping to one organisation. So we only have to manage one organisation. And I've still got properties that we've been managing for 15 years, and some of those owners are still stuck in 15 years ago, and getting them to invest is a big challenge as well.
The next one is how to actually monetize the guest experience. So we've talked about scaling and making the guest experience better. We've heard about owner relations and the importance behind that, the importance of cleaners and even tipping them, or centralizing your cleaning staff with one organization so that you can really manage that system. After all, one of the first things the Hilton brand mentioned, that the first impression for guests when they check in is they check the bed, the comfort of the bed, the cleanliness of the bathroom, and then the view, if you have one. So there's quite a bit of importance on that first impression, which comes from the cleanliness. Now, when you create a digital experience or a very personalized experience, there are opportunities to monetize it. And this is something we've already started doing with Tim, which is quite awesome, through our platform at Enso Connect. Unfortunately, we have not done this yet with Lisa or Rebecca, but I'd love to hear more about monetizing the guest experience. We have operators that are able to monetize north of $400 per listing per month in upsells that they're creating for or curating for their guests. It's quite phenomenal to see, from things as simple as what I'd call operational upsells, like early check-ins and late checkouts, to the more personalized, intricate, a telescope rental when there's the eclipse, or a boat trip, or a romantic sort of package, and so on. Tim, do you want to share a bit more about upsells or monetizing that guest experience and what that looks like for your business?
Thank you, Francois. We are happily with Enso Connect. We do monetize our guest experience to the point where it just pays for the platform. So that's a really good decision. But we're also only using it to probably 15% of its capacity at the moment. I know that, and it hurts, but running the business, there's other priorities that we are needing to ensure run really well as well. We definitely automate early check-ins and late checkouts are taken up quite often by our guests, which is really good. We also offer firewood. Being in Orange, it's through the winter as an upsell. We actually give them the option. You can go and buy it from this place if you want to. Otherwise, we can have it there. You just pay us this much and we'll go and drop it there for you. It's a fire starting kit so they can get going on their stay. And it's part of the experience, lighting a fire, because you're in Orange, it's nice and cold.
And Lisa, how about yourself? Is it something you already do?
Yeah, if I have to be completely honest, like doing all these custom things for the guest isn't scalable for our business. But what we do is so Rebecca and I are the queen of adding extras on top, which the guests don't necessarily know that they're paying because they pay an all-in-one fee. But then when that all-in-one fee is split out, our business takes a $50 admin fee. We take a damage waiver, which covers any damages from the guest or the owner that the guests don't know that they're paying. So that if there is any problems, we can just take it out of that money. And if there's any problems with the owner, we just take it out of the money. The business actually makes quite a bit of money off that, and we treat it like it's almost insurance as such. But we don't tell owners or guests that we have it because we make for a great guest experience or owner experience when we do need to use it. We make money off cleaning. We make money off linen. We actually have a $10 rubbish fee as well off every booking, because if there's excess rubbish, we don't want to have to pick a fight with the guests or go back through whether or not who took the rubbish out, who didn't take the rubbish out. We just collect it, take it, job done, the money's sitting there ready to be paid. And that wine and cookies that we do for the guests as well, that's a $25 fee that we have on top that the guests, again, don't know that they're paying, but the guests actually get that. We don't make a lot of money off that. And another one is we actually have a hamper fee for our guests as well, so that we can splurge and give guests, if a guest is telling us they're here for their kids' brain surgery or something like that, we'll get them a lovely little like kids care pack. Or if they're here for a wedding, we'll drop them off like a big bunch of flowers. So we're like clipping the ticker on every booking in order to give specific guests, like to go out of the way to make for a great guest experience. We don't actually charge for early check-ins or late checkouts. It's not something that costs our business money as such, other than like an email back. And I hate that when you go and stay somewhere and they won't even give you like an early check-in or late checkout. So I don't do those fees for things like that. We give out free porta cots and high chairs just because, again, it's if you're there with the kids and the family, it's a bit of a letdown when they turn around and say, yes, we can provide it, but it's going to cost you this. It's just a little bit like a bit of a punch in the face when you're going through that guest experience. That's how I feel it feels from a guest perspective. And in terms of those extras as well, we make the owners pay for extras like Nespresso pods. We make sure there's an amount there because, again, I just feel like it's a bit of a slap in the face for the guests when they turn around. We don't have many fireplaces actually, but we make sure that our pools are heated. The owners have to be paying for an extra pool, heated pool, because I've been to properties and I'm like, yay, there's a pool, but I don't want to get in it because it's freezing and it's, damn it, I forgot to ask that question. I'm really annoyed about it. And God, the owners are tight ass for not like heating the pool. We're here paying $1,000 a night. So that's like where I stand on extra fees and charges and things like that.
That's totally fair. And I think there's varying opinions for it. At the end of the day, I think it just depends on how you position some of these upsells to come across not too nickely and dimey with guests and really bundle it as part of the experience that you offer. Rebecca, do you want to share a bit more about some of the fees?
Along the lines of lease, supply as much as you can and include it in the price. But I also am excited by the opportunities to work with our local community to provide a guest experience by offering our recommended activities and restaurants and the like, and maybe helping out profitability as our costs go up by taking a little clip of the ticket. And I know that Enso helps Tim to do that in Orange. The one thing that I did just want to cheekily mention is that we also take a very small fee off each booking to support our challenges with regulation and legislation through Astra. And the guest doesn't see the $2 on every booking that we collect, but it certainly helps support one of the other challenges that we're all experiencing worldwide in our governments blaming short-term rentals for the housing crisis and our neighbours choosing to dislike us because we might be having a bit of fun, whereas if it was the neighbour themselves having a bit of fun, their judgment is a little less of themselves and noise, etc. Lisa and I have talked for a long time, and Lisa, I'm very disappointed you haven't told me about the rubbish fee, because there's a new charge going on with a day rental specialist this afternoon as soon as I hang up this phone call. We're constant challenges with it. I, like you, don't like going back and asking guests for any money, and we use the damage protection fee. Again, we don't tell anyone anybody about it in order to cover things like garbage, but really it's not. We can wrap that up in another small fee like you have. So experience around what is to offer in the local community is where we're going to move to next, and referring our friends, family and neighbours, etc., to create experience in that regard.
Tying in the local community aspect. In fact, I'll give you a quick example from a property manager in Tel Aviv, which I learned from a couple months back of a strategy that he was deploying, and I thought it was quite interesting. And that is, he goes to the local restaurants in the area, and let's say he finds a brunch spot, and he says, I have 40,000 guests that go through my doors every year. I've handpicked 3 of my personal favorite brunch places, and I'm going to let you guys bid to tell me who wants me to display your brunch in my guides. And these restaurants are like 40,000 guests, a lot of people, and a lot of eyeballs to showcase my brunch spot. So they'll pay $500 a month, which is additional revenue for your business, more revenue that you can keep to solve any issues with guests, or also just increase bottom lines. There's so many different ways of strategizing upsells. It's not about nickeling and diming guests. It's also about just increasing the profitability of your vacation rental business with alternative streams. Guests spend a certain percentage on the rental price. You are the main person that they're looking up to when it comes to their experience. They're going to you, asking you what the best places are. They trust you more than any of the platforms and even the Google searches that are out there. Be that voice and find a way to monetize it. And if you want to learn more about upsells, you can follow me on LinkedIn, where I talk about upsells quite frequently. We've just generated over $1.5 million a month now for our customers in upsells. It's growing at 25% month over month. So it's hard to keep up with these slides. And the goal for this year is to generate over $30 million for our clients worldwide. I say $30 million because I tend to overestimate and try to push our team higher. I really think we can hit $50 million, but they put $30 million on the slide, I think, to tame me a bit more on these targets. It is 50 though. The next one I want to talk about is AI, because the next question I think this is something, Lisa, you've brought up quite a bit, and I couldn't agree more with some of the statements you've made around AI. Rebecca, I know it's been a big subject as well. We talked about it at one of the conferences. How do I think about AI? I think there's a lot of noise that is out there around AI because everyone's bringing it up. There's the basics, the chatbots and answering guest questions, but then there's also the future of where AI is actually headed, whether that's voice, whether that's video, or whether that's extra personalization. I'll start off maybe with Yoav to begin with on AI as a whole, because it is part of the Guesty strategy. But can you share a bit more how you think about AI in hospitality? And then we'll talk about how actually even Guesty is using AI in their business.
Our approach to AI is how can you leverage beyond just the operational needs. So beyond just streamlining the operation, pricing, analyzing data, but how can you take it to enhance the guest experience? Everything that we spoke so far. Because AI, and you see also from the other tools in the market, it now goes beyond just being a chatbot. It looks into more contextual relevancy. It looks into the sentiment of the guest, into the past experience of the guest. And based on that, basically enhance or should enhance what you're doing. So the approach is to see how you can use it in a co-pilot. And you see here a few more stats that has to do also with the communication, content creation, and things that are related to the operational side of things. I'll say 2 things. First of all, there was a few months ago, there was an interesting question that ran across LinkedIn and X, Twitter, and said, what would you do now that you have 10x of your capabilities? What would you do now that with AI, it's basically increased your capabilities by 10x or more? Now, that's quite an interesting question. If you dwell on it, it can be also a bit of philosophical, but we have now much more power. See on the usage that you're already doing in AI, and now you can do things now like on steroids. So how do you leverage it on every aspect of your business? And the last thing that I'll say is something that I heard yesterday, that AI is like Botox. If you use it too much, people notice, all right? So have it in mind. And I think that's bring the human parts to it.
Love that quote. AI is like Botox. That's amazing. Let's start off with Lisa on this one. I'm going to do a little round table on this question of how you're using AI in your business today. I do want to point out to everyone, in terms of behavioral changes that you can do today to start thinking about it. If you feel like you're not using it enough, I'll give you one quick example. On your iPhone, if you have an iPhone, if you have an Android, I'm sorry, go to the Apple store and get an iPhone. But if, all jokes aside, I just don't know how the Androids work very well. You usually have 4 apps at the bottom. My personal four were always my music, my messages, my phone, and then Google. I replaced Google with the ChatGPT app. And that kind of just forces me now to start using AI in even my general searches. So whenever I make a search, I use AI and I get the response that I need. So if you're really just getting started, that is one little trick that can get you accustomed to it. But we're going to talk about AI in the hospitality business itself. It's something that at Enso Connect we've worked on for quite some time now, whether it's sentiment analysis, message drafting, message sending, summaries of conversations, and a lot more to come. Lisa, how are you using AI in your business today?
Don't think I'm going to be saying anything that's revolutionary to what anyone else is doing, but we use it all day, every day. Like Google's now become pretty much obsolete, but PowerPoint presentations I can put together. So you need to be on the Pro ChatGPT Pro, or so I would recommend that if you're not on that now, get on it. I've actually done my real estate CPT points, CTP, and passed with flying colors, as terrible as that sounds, but it worked. But I'm just giving you examples of the extent you can go to in order, you just need to think outside the square. Everybody's using it to draft an email. Everybody's using it to reply to a guest. Things that you would never think that you could use it for, you can use it for. Doing up contracts, we've had lawyers go through all of our legal documents, but if you need like a legally worded like reply to a guest because you think it might be heading down that road, or an owner or whatever, then it can help with things like that. Listing descriptions. The other day I used it for, I just wanted to know like kind of what my break even point, and I had all these like information on, I just wanted to find out all this data, and it put it on in all these spreadsheets. Oh, a really cool thing that I got it to do was add guidebooks actually. So I asked it to upload all the manuals on, so I uploaded all the making the model numbers of the property that we had, and I asked ChatGPT to create the model numbers of all the important appliances in this one property. And then I asked it to give me a short 1-paragraph how to turn these things on. And then I asked it to then give me 5 troubleshooting tips if the appliance fails. And it gave me like the top 5 troubleshooting tips, which was excellent. And we just dropped that in the guide. So if an error 3 come up, like our team in the Philippines would normally be fumbling around, getting them to do all sorts of X, Y, and Z. But if that error 3 comes up and the guest sends us a photo, we immediately know that we have to send an electrician because it's a sensory issue. So we don't have guests jumping through all those hoops of turning off the power, turning it back on, doing this, doing that, checking this, that, and the next thing, when we actually know that we've just got to send an electrician out to the job. I thought that was a really cool one. I even got ChatGPT the other day to mark up some instructions on how to turn on from the control panel our air conditioning system. That needed a little bit of work, but I thought, wow, that's pretty incredible. You can get it to transcribe all of your videos. So if your team are running around doing a home guidebook via video, they can transcribe it for you and then dump it into the guide. So I'm going deep into that at the moment, the guidebooks, and getting our properties properly set up using AI, and because that at the end of the day makes for a great guest experience moving forward.
These are fantastic examples. And I think if we did a webinar once with 100 different property managers, and we asked everyone to come up with one example of how they're using AI today, I feel like everyone would have their own unique way of using it. So maybe a future thing for us to do. Tim, is this something that's within your business today? How do you think about AI, and how are you using AI in your business today?
And so using it in almost every way that Lisa is as well. So I don't have to really double down on how it can accelerate your business and ensure the guest experience runs more smoothly. Thank you, Lisa. It's good to see that different applications, very similar applications being used in larger businesses too. This new technology, where we are with Guesty, it has a reply sort of AI feature where it really takes the thinking time out and thinking pressure and stress out of. We do host 30,000 guests a year, which is a significant size for our team, and that makes that a lot easier and quicker, and we can approve that or disapprove it and then send it off. So that just takes that thinking time out. We analyze the sentiment of our reviews. Guesty helps us do that. Every week we get a report, review like 3, 4, 5 star, whatever it was, and that activates the team, and they know where to look, who's responsible, the sentiment of the review, and actions they need to take. So that's a system within our business which helps us ensure our guest experience. It might be a maintenance issue, might be a heating issue, we get that guest feedback and then apply that week to improve, make sure that doesn't happen again. And then the other thing I kind of want to say, just another different sort of perspective on AI is, which I'm really working towards increasing our branding and our trust, our review rating, and then owner reviews as well, because Lisa just said it searches mostly through ChatGPT now, and that's the source of knowledge and source of truth, as opposed to Google, which sort of displays every page and who pays for the highest search ranking or whatever. If you're asking for who's the best property manager in wherever, it's going to go to those reviews and pull out the information there. And these guys are 4.8, these guys are 4.5. So I think that's really interesting to me, is to the brand power, using AI to use your humans to be more human, to increase your brand, to then for AI to swing it straight back to potential clients and customers as well. Really just looking at that space. As a company, we know that there's a lot of technology emerging with AI. We're not jumping on the first shiny whistle. We're improving internally. My skill is documentation and training, like the actual completing documents, and I can draw pictures and stuff. But so internally, we're cycling all of our training through that to make sure it's really tight and best practice for our staff and our guests and listings and everything that's written down. We're definitely 10xing our sort of level up there, as Yoav mentioned. We're very closely watching the space, using it to where we can now, but also knowing that it will change everything moving forward.
Structuring your data ahead of this is, I think, probably one of the best ways to be able to use these tools efficiently. I think a lot of property managers have data sitting everywhere, Post-it here, a spreadsheet there, their PMS, and then they wonder why an AI can't just automatically respond to all of the messages, whether internal messages for their teams or external messages to guests and owners, because AI can't guess. It needs to have some structured content. It needs to learn. So having that structured data, I think, is a great first step for a lot of property managers. Rebecca, do you want to give us as well how you're thinking about AI?
We're Microsoft based, and we're using a paid version of Copilot, which looks at all of our data for us and can find things and information that can be difficult to find when you've had 15 years of collecting stuff. So that's actually proving quite successful for us. But the other thing that I wanted to say is that we're looking at how we can use AI to double the number of properties and bookings that we look after with the same cost, or reduce our costs to manage the same amount of properties that we currently manage by hand. We can't sit doing what we're currently doing and make ourselves more efficient through AI if we don't reduce our overhead in other areas. So I guess that's our focus at the moment, is how do we get the balance out of that and make sure that we're still offering the guest experience that we need to, but we're staying ahead of the game and can remain profitable around, because cost increases are really hitting us hard. I don't know whether they're hitting everybody else hard, but the cost of electricity has gone through the roof for our offices, and even the cost of team and superannuation and all of the things that we're looking at on a day-to-day basis. We're saying, how can we automate and make that more efficient, either using AI or some sort of automation that AI can help us build.
I think what I love about the 3 responses we've had today is, Lisa, you've shared some very tactical components on how to use AI right in your business. Tim, you've shared the sort of taking a step back and make sure you have the right data and the right sort of clean house in order to feed that data. And then Rebecca, thinking about the profitability. At the end of the day, AI is a shiny object, but it's actually a useful object if you can see those KPIs drive in the right direction. And if that's profitability, if that's guest experience, whatever that might be, it certainly can. There are tons of examples out there for how you can leverage AI in your day-to-day business, whether you go on Facebook groups, Reddit, whether you send messages even to the audience that is present today or the speakers. I'm sure we'll continue to share some ideas. I'm going to be wrapping up this webinar shortly. A quick offer for our new Guesty users, which is 40% off the annual subscription, which can help you monetize and digitize that guest experience. I'm just going to open it up here. We do have a question from James Mulvaney. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. Any plans to extend the Enso Connect integrations with Australian-based PMS? We use Resly, very popular Australian, New Zealand PMS. I will talk to the team. I've heard of Resly quite a few times from Resly users who've reached out, as well as Home Hero, which is another one that I've had quite a bit of people reaching out to us for. We haven't prioritized too many new PMS integrations. We're really focused on improving our existing integrations, the same topic of do more with less, but I will certainly look at it, James. Thanks, everyone.